Okay, today's psalm, Kathy has this book of, bits of psalms for every day. And it only has 2 or 3 verses out of the psalm, and so I'm gonna read 8 verses. This is Psalm 31. It is a prayer and praise for deliverance from enemies, supposedly written by David. In you, O Lord, I seek refuge. Do not let me ever be put to shame. In your righteousness, deliver me. Incite your ear to me. Rescue me speedily. Be a rock of refuge for me, a strong fortress to save me. You are indeed my rock and my fortress. For your name's sake, lead me and guide me. Take me out of the net that is hidden from me. For you are my refuge. In your hand I commit my spirit. You have redeemed me, O Lord, faithful God. You hate those who pay regard to worthless idols, but I trust in the Lord. I will exalt and rejoice in your steadfast love, because you have seen my affliction. You have taken heed of my adversities. You have not delivered me into the hand of the enemy. You have set me into a free space. And the book asks this question. What are your free spaces? Where has God put you that you are safe?
I was thinking this morning that after church with the kids running around the way they were, I was gonna need another worship out in the woods today.
Yeah.
Good morning. I go in my backyard. I need to find a nice open space where I've tried leaves. I just like kneel there and listen and again.
Way over here in the corner, that way I can observe from afar.
I didn't intend to, I just walked out
Yeah.
without it, and I'm like.
I never got a chance to talk to
Right now,
Paul.
without my phone.
Okay, did he tell you I left him a message?
It's wonderful.
You did? I left him a message about
But yeah, I need to do
2:30
that more
yesterday
often.
afternoon. So,
So is any part of y'all, is any part of you going, I don't have it.
No,
I'm going back.
there is no part of me that was going that way. As soon as I realized I didn't have it, all of a sudden I felt
Finally.
liberated.
Damn it.
I did hear like the static in my head a little bit more, and I was like, okay, that really is static in my head. That's not, and that's probably from me getting too much fun. And this is going to be a good thing. I need to just, I have a friend that digital detoxes on a regular basis. I'm like, I should do this more often.
Yeah. Hi, Janet.
I left my phone at home. I just walked out without it.
Good
I
for
know,
you.
right?
Oh, yeah.
It was completely by accident, but
Yeah,
I'm like celebrating.
You're just having a retro Sunday back to the 80s when we didn't have phones. That's all. It's a retro Sunday.
90, it's like I only started taking my phone with me everywhere in the last 10 years.
Well, I was the last manager in our company to get a cell phone. The owners forced me to get one because when they wanted to get hold of me, they wanted to get hold of me.
Yeah.
And I resisted and resisted and resisted because I saw what it was doing to people.
Yeah.
Okay, and when I'm driving,
Oh, yeah.
my time.
Yeah.
Now it isn't.
Yeah.
No, I turn, I
You think that's-
turn all notifications off for the most part. Like I don't have any audio notifications except for the ringer. And then I put it on like completely silent during the school day. Anytime I'm in class, it's like, it's a do not disturb mode. But I don't let people call me. It's like, if I'm getting a call, I'm assuming it's a marketer for the most part, but if someone calls me and they need to talk and it comes directly, I assume emergency.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if,
Well,
I expect to see text messages and, deal with those as I can, but phone calls are emergency only.
well, the neat thing about this thing, I can leave my phone anywhere on a house or garage or whatever. And if I'm riding lawnmower or something and I get a phone call or anything comes up on the watch.
Oh, no, I'm not getting one of those.
Oh, I
am
love
not getting one of
I love it. It is so easy to not answer.
Oh.
Say, I left my phone in the garage.
No, every single like notification is like a stimulus that my brain doesn't need. And that's one more that would just annoy the heck out of me every time, like if it vibrates or it glows or anything like that, no.
Well,
I'm keeping analog.
You can set it to notify you on some things and not notify you on others.
Do I need one more thing to set to not notify me?
I don't get many phone calls since I'm retired, so.
Yeah.
I
The
would
ones, it's people that I probably do wanna talk to. when I'm
These days, yeah.
retired.
When you're on the lawnmower though, really?
Oh, well, it depends. If it's the kids, if it's the grandkids, yeah, if the grandkids, absolutely. I'll stop for them. Yeah,
Okay,
or-
let's
anyway.
rein this in, but I do want to tell one story about
Yeah.
being in class. Probably had 30 students and all 30 heads went. And I said, okay, what's happening? And they all looked at each other like, I don't know. I said, look, every head in the room went. So I know something's happening because you don't all get text at exactly the same time unless something's going on campus. And one kid said they've seen somebody walking around campus with a gun.
Well,
And I
let's
said,
lock the
okay.
door.
Right, and somebody else said, can we close and lock the door? I said, not a problem, close the door. I said, keep me informed.
Yeah.
But just the
Yeah,
en masse was a little spooky.
yeah, that would be weird.
Well, I know two people that have the watch, and when they do Amber Alerts, they're on the highway and they saw the car.
Oh,
Because the Amber Alerts come on here too.
yeah,
So I know two people, one in Massachusetts and one in New Jersey, who actually notified the police. So,
No, my
Okay.
phone, I always keep like up on my dashboard when I'm driving. So it's like, my phone is there and it's like, so if I get a message, I can see it. If I get a call, I can take it. You know, it's connected with my thing. But yeah, no, my wrist is one more thing that I don't need. I've got the phone
you don't
out.
need your wrist.
I don't need alerts on my
How do you
wrist.
wave like the queen if you don't have a wrist?
okay,
I tried to show you.
Isaiah, y'all are really on a roll today, aren't you?
No, you do, child. I got enough little freshmen to deal with.
Don't move
Bernie.
don't move your coffee cup.
Speaking
close.
of
It
phones,
was
you
not
come to
even close
text.
to coffee.
That was close. There you go.
Okay,
I get it.
Isaiah. Kathy did get us through most of Isaiah last time.
For what chapter?
Chapter 5.
I was gonna say, we were on chapter 3 the last
Yeah,
time. I was there. How's that most of the way? through?
yeah, sorry, most of the way through chapter 5 is what I need to say.
That's a whole other page.
Okay, yeah, hold on a thing. So I'm picking up on verse 26.
Chapter
And-
526?
Yeah, verse 526. And the Bible that I'm using does not have, sections. And just to show you all this Bible, this is a fairly new translation of the Hebrew Bible by Robert Alter. This is a Jewish translation. And so this is just the prophets. This is not an entire Bible. This is just the prophets from the Old
You
Testament.
mean it's a Jewish Bible? It's the entire Jewish Bible.
It's well, no, this is just the prophets.
Oh,
This is not the
Torah?
Torah, and it's not the writings. So this is mostly footnotes,
Got it.
which I love.
That is a lot of footnotes.
It is a lot of footnotes. So if somebody would read.
Yeah,
Here.
well,
I got it.
Okay,
26 through 30.
yes,
He will raise a signal for a nation far away and whistle for a people at the ends of the earth. Here they come swiftly, speedily. None of them is weary, none stumbles, none slumbers or sleeps, not a loincloth is loose, not a sandal thong is broken. Their arrows are sharp, all their bows bent, their horses' hooves seem like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. Their roaring is like a lion, like young lions they roar. They growl and seize their prey. They carry it off and no one can rescue. They will roar over it that day like the roaring of the sea. And if one look to the land, only darkness, distress, and light grows dark with clouds.
Okay, so, especially these last few verses sound rather apocalyptic.
Mm.
So some of the notes here,
It just sounds like war.
yeah.
It sounds like an army of well apportioned soldiers.
Yes, so any idea who the army is?
Israel,
No.
No?
No, Israel has,
angels,
no, the bad guys.
demons.
Well,
No,
not demons,
no,
but Assyria.
The Syrians.
Oh.
Yeah, Assyrians.
Hosts.
Because Israel is not behaving well, and, politically, the northern 10 tribes are trying to go against, oh, no, I can't remember my politics, but anyway, they're looking for a political alliance, with another foreign nation, but they also want Judah to join into this alliance.
Mhm.
Judah doesn't care because they're in the south and they're far enough away that it really won't affect them.
Sounds like a lot of politics.
Yes, exactly. And so these are the Assyrians that they're talking about, and, so Israel is actually, at some point, will start fighting with Judah to force them into the alliance. So that's some political history going on here. And this guy says that the hooves of the horses are hard as flint, and the wheels like, that this is frighteningly vivid through the poetry, through his poetry, the terrible onslaught of foreign invaders that's about to overwhelm the kingdom of Judah. The hyperbole, however, of the language he uses is so strong that it begins to look apocalyptic. And the roar like the lion, and then he roars again, and some translations have it roaring and howling, same thing, just to look fierce.
the one that says they growl and seize their prey, that's gonna be Israel?
No, it's Assyria.
Yeah,
No, but it's.
And, oh yeah, their
The
prey
prey,
is.
in other words,
gonna
their
be
prey is,
Israel.
yeah,
Israel.
prey is Israel, yes. The representation of the fierceness of the lion is conventional in ancient Near Eastern poetry, but the prophet makes the familiar trope vivid in the way he highlights the roaring and then links it to the roaring of the sea. And in verse 30, it talks about how, he shall peer toward the earth and look, constricting darkness, and the light shall go dark in its clouds. Since what is seen is a dismaying landscape of disaster, he would again have the unstated antecedent being the people of Israel. And the phrase where it says the light shall go dark in its clouds, again, this is poetic imagery that leans toward being apocalyptic. It's dark on the earth and dark in the heavens, which is a reversal of the first moment of creation, when let there be light drives back the darkness that is over the face of the abyss. Any comments or questions about that section?
I don't know, when I was reading about the horse's hoofs seeming like flint, I had this image in my mind of the hoofs clapping against the stone, the cobblestone street and actually sparking.
Yeah.
It's like that, you know, as if you're talking about flint.
Yeah.
And that would happen if they had like horseshoes on.
Right.
Potentially too. But that must be just a loud sound and a just, if you're talking about a large number of horses coming in, that's gonna be terrifying.
Did they have horseshoes back then?
I don't know when the origin of the horseshoe, but you know, at the same time, if you don't have horseshoes, it's really easy to screw up horses' feet. And so it's like, if we're talking about armor and if they have roads, I think they would have had horseshoes at that point.
Yeah, I would think if they had swords, they had
Right,
anvils,
yeah.
they had blacksmiths.
Yeah.
And they knew that they could, you know, that was, they weren't gonna hurt the hoof by, or the horse by nailing things into their hoofs. Oh, yeah, they have horseshoes.
Okay. Moving into chapter 6. Did somebody read through? Okay.
Pretty number.
I'm gonna say through verse
5.
7, and then immediately I want somebody else to finish it. It's only 13 verses, but I'll cut it in half. Somebody will read 7 and somebody else read the rest of it,
I'll take the first part.
okay?
All right, it's the section called God calls Isaiah to be a prophet. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord. He was sitting on his throne, high and exalted, and his robe filled the whole temple. Around him, flaming creatures were standing, each of which had 6 wings. Each creature covered its face with 2 wings, and its body with 2, and used the other 2 for flying. They were calling out to each other, "Holy, holy, holy, the Lord Almighty is holy. His glory fills the world." The sound of their voices made the foundation of the temple shake, and the temple itself became filled with smoke. I said, "There is no hope for me. I am doomed because every word that passes my lips is sinful, and I live among people whose every word is sinful. And yet with my own eyes I have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." Then one of the creatures flew down to me, carrying a burning coal that he had taken from the altar with a pair of tongs. He touched my lips with the burning coal and said, "This has touched your lips, and now your guilt is gone, and your sins are forgiven." Let me keep reading.
Does anybody else want to finish this?
Oh.
Okay, Claire.
Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" And I said, here am I, send me. And he said, "Go and say this to the people. Keep listening, but do not comprehend. Keep looking, but do not understand. Make the mind of this people dull, and stop their ears and shut their eyes, so they may not look with their eyes and listen with their ears, and comprehend with their minds, and turn and be healed." Then I said, "How long, O Lord?" And he said, "Until cities lie waste without inhabitant, and houses without people, and the land is utterly desolate, until the Lord sends everyone far away, and vast is the emptiness in the midst of the land. Even if 1/10 part remain in it, it will be burned again, like a terebinth or an oak, whose stump remains standing when it is felled. The holy seed is its stump."
Okay, do those words remind you of something?
So when you're reading verse 6, and the coal has been taken from the altar with a pair of tongs, and Seraph touched my mouth with it. The image that comes to my mind is I feel like this is a counterpoint to, there's another place that I used to turn to like all that time in like that little tiny Bible that
Mhm.
you get. And it would always turn to like this one line where my lips were like honey, and it just feels like this counterpoint to the lips of honey. And it's not in Song of Solomon, I promise. I think it's either in Psalms or somewhere else in the writing, but it just feels like there's like this parallel between the honey lips versus the coal being touched.
Okay. Did it remind you of anything else?
You know,
I was thinking Revelation.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, Revelations.
What email did you just send me? So I'm looking for a hymn book that I can't find here.
Oh,
These are the words of a hymn.
Oh, yeah, that too.
You don't go to church very often. That's why you're frowning at me.
What do you mean? I went to a different church all my life,
So.
and it was in Latin.
You shall walk and not be weary. No, that's the wrong song.
No, there's,
That's a bit wrong.
yeah.
Um,
Go find a hymn book. He's just,
Mine
he's got it on his phone.
or
Yeah.
the other,
No, that's this one.
Here I am, send me.
broke it all the way.
Oh, that's here I am, Lord. So that's
Yeah,
what's
here I am.
yeah, here I am.
Yeah, sure all the
I the
songs.
Lord of
right.
sea and sky.
Yes,
I will
yes,
hear
that one.
my people cry.
Yes,
All who dwell
So-
in darkest.
We just sang it 2 weeks ago.
okay,
Here
so
I
anyway,
am.
that's where this comes.
Give the parts for love.
That's one of my favorite songs.
Yes,
the
that's
whole
where
thing.
this comes from.
Yeah.
That's where that song comes from, is this passage.
Well, part of it, but the
Not
here
yet,
I
no.
am, Lord, is meant to be, was it Isaiah saying here I am?
Yes,
Or,
yes.
because it's like, there's many places in the Bible where someone stands up and says, here I am, Lord.
Yes,
And
well, this is Isaiah saying, here I am. And one of my commentators made the comparison that with Moses and Jeremiah, God said, I want you. But here, God says, who can I send? And Isaiah raises his hand and says, here I am, you can send me. So he volunteers and then says, but I'll live among people whose words are unclean, my words are unclean, you know, they've rubbed off on me, this is awful. And so the angel comes and cleanses with fire. And this author says, or translator says that what you should get, and what I've never gotten with this, reading this passage before, is the pain that would have, think about putting a live coal in your mouth
Oh, yeah.
and how painful that would be. And I always thought more of purifying metal through fire, but we're not talking metal, we're talking somebody's,
I saw it more symbolically. I saw it as an
Yeah.
anointing.
Yes.
That's how I saw it.
well, but
In a different way.
also a cleansing.
Same thing, and basically.
Yeah.
That's how I saw it.
Okay.
Which.
Isn't
story,
it
though,
kind
was-
of, I'm sorry, isn't it kind of, frustrating on Isaiah's part where he's being told you're going to have a message to tell the people, but they're not going to hear you, they're not going to see, they're not going to believe you. So basically you're talking to the wall and they're not going to turn
Yes.
until everything is destroyed.
Right, and that's why he says in verse 11, till when? Because yeah, God's saying, you know, I'm gonna close their eyes, I'm gonna close their ears, I'm gonna, you know, at that time they thought the heart was where understanding, you know, I'm gonna harden their hearts. And Isaiah believing that that's not gonna end, is saying, okay, how long? How long is this gonna last? And God says, until you look at it desolation. And so
You know,
that's why
if I was being sent as a prophet, I'd like to think that I was going to save people from that, as opposed to you're going to tell them what's going to happen and they're not going to listen.
Yeah, we do like to think that we make a difference when God sends us somewhere, don't we?
Yeah.
And the idea here is on the very last verse there, the holy seed is its stump, the very last phrase. Not everybody will be destroyed, not everything will be destroyed. And that last little bit will be a holy seed, and from that holy seed we will rebuild. I mean, think how little an acorn is and how big an oak tree is. You can do the same thing here. But
And
most people are gonna be,
Isn't there also the word stump? Isn't that used as the stump of Jesse when they're predicting Jesus coming?
yes. Yeah, so that language is repeated as well. But yeah, this would be extremely disheartening. Isaiah was not happy. He volunteered. Now he's being told he's gonna basically be a failure. You know, most people would just say, okay, I'll go home now. Why bother? But as long as you make the difference to one person, remember the starfish story. You know, I made a difference to one. That may be all that is needed. You never know what happens with just one person. Okay, verse 7, I'm gonna read through, or rather chapter 7, I'm gonna read through verse 9. And it happened in the days of Ahaz, son of Jotham, son of Uzziah, king of Judah, that Rezin, king of Aram, with Pekah, son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up to Jerusalem to do battle against it, but he was not able to battle against it. And it was told to the house of David, Aram has joined with Ephraim and made its heart and the heart of its people sway like the trees of the forest before the wind. And the Lord said to Isaiah, go out, pray, to meet with Ahaz, you and Shear-Jashub your son, to the edge of the conduit of the upper pool, by the road of Fuller's field. And you shall say to him, watch yourself and be tranquil, do not fear, and let your heart not quail because of these two smoking tails of firebrands, over the blazing wrath of Rezin and Aram and the son of Remallah, inasmuch as Aram with Ephraim and the son of Remallah has devised evil counsel against you. Let us go up against Judah and shake it, and we shall break it into pieces for ourselves, and we shall set up within it the son of Tabeel as king. So that's where, that's the introduction to the poetry. If you're reading this, you'll notice that it alternates between prose and poetry. So the prose is an explanation and the poetry is the actual prophecy that Isaiah is making. So this is the prophecy. Thus said the Master, the Lord, it shall not happen, and it shall not be, that the head of Aram is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. And in another 65 years, Ephraim as people shall be smashed. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is the son of Remaliah. If you trust not, you shall not hold firm. And so this is the passage I was talking about a few minutes ago, where Israel is trying to side with Ephraim against the Assyrians, and they want to force Judah to join with them. So they're literally gonna attack Judah to force them to join. Notes.
So right, Ephraim, if they're talking about the people, it's sort of like the southern part of northern Israel. I mean, you're still north of Judah, but it's
Yeah, because it
that's
talks
where,
about,
yeah,
it talks
Israel
about,
is-
Samaria, which is.
so Ephraim is
Yeah, so
nearing
Here's
Jerusalem.
Ephraim
Right.
in the middle there. So you're talking that. And you see Jerusalem's down here. They don't care what's happening up north.
Jerusalem
So
is
here's
on
Aram.
the border between northern Israel, so it's like right there between Dan and
Yeah,
and Judah.
so there's Aram that they're talking about, and Ephraim. And then here's Judah. And where is Samaria?
Is Samaria to the west?
I always thought Samaria was near Galilee.
Samaria,
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
I thought it was a different country.
No, I thought it was always like far north.
No, because Samaria was part, the reason they
It was
hated
part-
them.
Yeah, but it was
Samaria
part of-
no, it's not part of Israel.
It's not?
No, Samaritans came to Israel, but Samaria is not part of Israel. It's not one of the tribes.
Right, it's not one of the tribes, but this,
Let's see,
City.
Midian,
the city of Samaria.
it's a city. Oh.
Because there was a city of Samaria. Yeah, here. Yeah, different time zone, different time period. So here's Samaria.
So how's that
It
not?
should be just, is it just west of Galilee? Pretty much,
Yeah, because Jesus was able to easily move back and forth.
that should be just west of, the Sea of Galilee is north of the Dead Sea.
Here's the city of Galilee.
Okay, so it's southwest a little.
Yeah.
Okay, oh yeah, there we go, I got the map now.
Okay.
So this shows Samaria as an area just north of Ephraim. I mean, a big area.
Yeah, so and my
So
history,
that may be referencing where the Samaritans are living.
yeah, because the map on the right. Let me see if there's.
The map on the bottom left shows a large area of Syria.
Syria
That's a different.
versus Samaria.
Yeah, that's the thing, it's a different time and
That's,
Okay, so this is Paul's.
That's AD.
that's Paul.
right,
yeah.
that's different, yeah.
So this is
they're not putting a time frame on it, they're given,
The tribal allotments of
This is why I
Israel.
have.
yeah,
my
so this is earlier than this one is.
So I can look these things up.
Yeah, one of these days I'll figure out this one.
We're just not studying it. I sort of-
That's why we're doomed to repeat it.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes,
No, we study history, we just don't know geography, that's that's a different thing.
yeah.
It's getting worse with GPS.
Well,
Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. So in verse 3,
Of chapter 7.
of chapter 7. Shear Joshua, I'm looking for Shear Joshua. Who's going, okay, and the Lord said to Isaiah, go out,
oh,
pray to meet Ahaz, you and Shear Joshua your son. So that's Isaiah's son. And the note is that like other prophetic progeny, Isaiah's son has a symbolic name. Shear Joshua means a remnant shall come back. So that ties into that last little bit where it says, the stump. Something will grow out of that stump.
question, were we trying to figure out where Syria, cause it's the Syrians that they're fighting, right?
I think so, yeah.
Cause if it's the Syrians that they're fighting, they are coming from the north of Israel into the, east.
Okay, here's the note on that.
Samaria is a whole different thing.
The northern kingdom of Israel entered into an alliance with Aram to oppose Assyria.
And
Right.
Aram was over here, I saw it, upper right-hand corner.
This is United Monarchy. Okay,
Yeah,
I've got United
so-
Monarchy. We're still united now, or we're in the kingdoms of Israel and Judah?
We're in the kingdoms of Israel. and
Okay,
Judah.
got that now.
Okay,
Alright.
so they
So we've got Syria up here,
and Aram, so,
Sidonians,
okay,
Galilee.
so these guys are. So they're trying to make some political alliances to save their butts, and political alliances come back and frequently bite you. Which is, remember, that's what happened with they invited Rome in at some point to help fight off.
Well, that was Rome's MO. Rome's MO was, we'll come in and help you establish peace and make sure that you're getting your political thing worked out here internally. And, just when you die, we get to come in and take over. And we're gonna start taxing you in order
Yeah.
for this privilege of our peace. And if we decide that you're not doing things the way we want you to do them, we would just take over. And ultimately, they just always took over. Rome was evil.
Yeah, it was. Okay, if I could get someone to read verses 10 through 17 of chapter 7.
You do it again? I don't mind.
Yeah, kind of good.
Once again, the Lord spoke to Ahaz and said, ask the Lord your God for a sign from lowest Sheol or from highest heaven. But Ahaz said, no, I will not put the Lord to the test by asking for a sign. Then the answer came, listen, house of David, are you not content to wear out men's patience? Must you also wear out the patience of my God? Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign, a young woman with a child, and she will bear a son, and will call him Emmanuel. By the time that he has learned to reject evil and choose good, he will be eating curds and honey. Before that child has learned to reject evil and choose good, Desolation will come upon the land before whose two kings you cower now. The Lord will bring on you, your people, and your house, a time the like of which has not been seen since Ephraim broke away from Judah. You said 17 or how far?
No, that was,
Okay.
okay. So,
Great prophecy.
Actually, I think that's the scripture that I was referring to before. I think that's where I remember it from.
okay,
Usually birds and honey.
mhm,
And I loved that.
yeah,
Just always loved that imagery. I can live on birds and honey.
okay. Any comments about the young woman is about to conceive and bear a son, and she shall call his name Emmanuel?
So
But I
that's-
mean, he sounds like, you know, oh, this is gonna happen next week, when in fact, there's this huge time with.
Yeah.
Mystified
That's the
700
fun
years.
thing about prophecy.
But this says that she's already pregnant.
Oh, okay,
This says that, there's a pregnant girl, a girl's pregnant, is gonna give birth to a son, and she will call his name God is with us.
okay.
Yeah, mine has present tense also.
Mhm. This translator makes the note that, a lot of Christian readings emphasizing the virgin birth, but the Hebrew word does not mean virgin, but means young woman. And,
Yeah, that's a point. Greek says virgin.
the sign here is the name she gives the child, which is God with us. Nevertheless, the identity of the young woman is unclear and has been much debated. She might be the prophet's wife because there is precedent for prophets begetting some symbolic sons, or she might be a woman in the house of David. And then talking about the curds and honey, the child will be raised in sumptuous abundance, which however will be interrupted by the disaster that will sweep over the land. And the king of Assyria that is mentioned there at the very end, this specification at the end of the sentence is awkward. It may have been added as an explanation later on. And there are other places in here that this translator says, there's a possibility that this word, this phrase, or, gets added later by editors. In any case, the prophecy of an Assyrian onslaught is that of an unprecedented disaster for the nature, and it's much better suited coming against Judah in 701 BC than the events of 734 and 732, with which this segment begins. So it's like he's hopping around in his history. So if we're confused, Isaiah was confused because he's talking about two different battles, 30 years apart in this. I'm just reading notes. I have no idea.
But how do we know that since there's no literal reference to a specific battle, or is there and I'm missing it?
It's just the general destruction.
Well, it better suits, there was a campaign against Judah by Sennacherib in 701 in terms of comparing what this says to what we know about history.
Okay.
So that's where that comment's coming
Yeah,
from.
basically it says that everybody's gonna be in Syrian.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Which is true about northern Israel. Northern Israel ends up getting assimilated into Assyria,
Yeah.
and that's where the diaspora begins.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, or is that later? Is that still later? I don't remember.
I thought that was later, so I thought the diaspora came about through when Babylonia took everybody out of Judah. Because they
Yeah,
stayed.
the Babylonians were after the Assyrians, weren't they?
Right.
Like they sacked them the second time.
Right. But-
Okay, so
Wait.
does Assyria end up coming in and ruling northern Israel for?
I think so, and I think, like you said, they just assimilated, so the
Right.
unique character of Israel just dissolves.
Yeah.
So there is no diaspora, they just kind of disappear. So I think it was when Babylonia came in and removed the upper classes to Babylon and put somebody else into Judea, that's the diaspora, because they maintain.
Judea never got diasporized. I didn't think, I thought that was
No,
just
they did.
northern Israel that experienced the diaspora, and then, Judah was always still there.
I have to do
I
some
don't-
research. I'm not sure.
Because there was definitely a piece of, with the northern Israel getting, watered down significantly more. And
Right.
southern Israel maintained their identity as Jewish people better, but they were still in the northern Israel. The people of northern Israel still maintained their Jewish identity in the diaspora, but it was oftentimes mingled.
Okay, I'll try to remember to do some research on that, which may translate into Colin Harold.
Where's Harold?
I don't know. Okay. The last little bit, and I will make it through chapter 7. Okay, so we're going back to poetry, so this is an actual, prophecy. And it shall happen on that day, the Lord shall whistle to the flies that are on the edge of Egypt's rivers, and to the bees that are in the land of Assyria. And they shall all come and settle in the wadis of the unplowed fields, and in the crevices of the rocks, and among all the thorns and thistles. On that day, the master shall shave with a hired razor along the borders of the river Euphrates with the king of Assyria. And the head and the pubic hair and the beard too, it shall cut away. And I want to make a comment here about the head and pubic hair and the beard. To shave that off was considered a horrible humiliation, but you were still alive. And it shall happen on that day, a man shall nurture a calf and 2 sheep. And it shall happen, from all the making of milk, he shall eat curds. For all who are left in the midst of the land shall eat curds and honey. Okay, another comment here. Remember, the curds and honey earlier referred to the plenty that the child would be raised in. This is just the opposite. The curds and honey are all you have. You can't grow crops. You're eating what comes out of your animals, and you're eating honey. And it shall happen on that day, every place where there will be 1,000 vines worth 1,000 silver shekels shall turn into thorn bush, and thistle. With bow and arrow, one would come there, for thorn bush and thistle the whole land shall be. But the mountains that are worked with a hoe, there the fear of thorn bush and thistle shall not come, and it shall be for oxen let loose and the trampling of sheep.
Just back on the other thing, it looks like at about 722, we lose northern Israel as an independent nation. Hoshea is the last ruler, and there's no ruling of the northern tribes
Okay,
after 722. The southern tribes continue until 586. And so they continue another 200 years. And at that point, Persia becomes the leadership of that region, and basically has taken over that area. And Persia continues from the 586 to we have Palestine again at about 166. So about 400 years. About 400 years, and then we have Palestine again with Judith Maccabeus at about 165, and we continue with Palestine rule until Herodian dynasty begins at about 37 BCE, and so the Herods begin at that point, which is where we come in with Jesus.
okay.
But yeah, it's just different dynasties, so the Hasmonean, rulers of Judah, which it's considered Palestine at that point as opposed to Israel.
Okay, so, a few notes on, what I just said here. All the vineyards are gonna turn to brambles, and wild beasts are going to roam there, and that's why you need a bow and arrow.
That when, was it verse 18, I guess it is, when you first started, you said that the flies of, Egypt and the bees of Assyria. Mine says a little different, where is it, to come, will whistle as a signal for the Egyptians to come from the Nile as flies, like flies, and for the Assyrians to come from the land like bees.
Okay,
So it doesn't use the.
right,
for my thing.
that makes more sense to me.
Yeah,
And he even, in his notes, compares the Assyrians to killer bees,
okay.
that they're gonna be that, the devastation will be that severe.
And there weren't any sheep, it was goats.
But, yeah,
Man.
Bad
Well,
joke.
we know about the goats and the sheep versus the sheep, and it's like the goats are the ones that just won't follow directions, the sheep are the ones that can follow directions. The goats have to always do it their end. That's what we know from Jesus. Jesus talked about the sheep, the goats and the sheep.
okay,
But that was later, 700 years later.
That was, but goats and sheep's analogy still stands anytime. Why? Yes.
okay, anyway,
I heard neither.
okay, we've run out of time. Thank y'all for coming on Zoom, thank y'all for being here in person. And y'all can go to worship now.